Brother Benedict, welcome. So you can begin introducing the presenter.
Thank you so much. I think you can hear me, all of you.
Exactly.
I am Brother Benedict of Jesus. I am a member of the Order of Discussed Carmelite, an order here in Rome. I'm a student of Theology, and I'm very pleased to be here. And I thank God because I have the freedom. I have the freedom to speak. So, yes, I have a freedom that no one can take from me. So I introduce to you Sister Maria Edwige. Sister Maria is a student of anthropology from Pontifical University of Teresiano here in Rome. She comes from Poland, and she's a very charming student and a presenter. She has presented many conferences. So we are very fortunate. We are very lucky to have her around. And she also comes from the Franciscan Sisters of the Immaculate. So we are very happy to have her as our guest today. And I hope we are going to get something which will make us free also. So I'm very happy to introduce her to you. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Thank you. Back to you, Bonaventure.
Thank you very much. The sister will be presenting on the topic, freedom as a calling to self-giving. Freedom as a calling to self-giving. So, Sister Maria, to you.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. First thing, thank you for the invitation for your meeting. As Fra Benedict said, I come from Poland. I am Franciscan sister of the Immaculate, studying anthropology, and the field that I'm doing my researches is Edith Stein. And I would like to share with you today the reflection of this one of the greatest women of last century. She was a philosopher, Carmelite nun, martyr in the camp of concentration of Auschwitz, and saint of the Catholic Church, whom John Paul II declared the patroness of Europe. And I don't know if you know her and how do you know her. I will just share to you so that you can see also who it is for those who don't know her. Mm-hmm. Can you see?
Yeah, exactly.
In her work, she dedicates a lot of space to this topic of human freedom. And we know that every authentic doctrine must be verified by life. Edith Stein, whose last work is called The Science of the Cross, declared at the moment of her arrest that the cross can be understood only by taking it upon oneself. And we cannot say much about her life now, but I think it is enough to know that she grown up in a Jewish family, but at the age of 14, she lost faith, declaring herself agnostic. And from that moment on, her unique religion was searching the truth. First, through the philosophical studies, until she understood that the truth is a person, and that for this person, she is ready to dedicate her life, first in Carmel, and then by accepting the death in the concentration camp Auschwitz. And we will begin from seeing some of the main points of her reflection, and then we will also pass to some other examples of how other people realized what Edith Stein suggested. So, Edith Stein says that our life is a constant flowing of impulses and the corresponding reactions. Even now, you are being impressed by the sound that you are hearing, by the image that you are watching, by hunger or overeating if you are after lunch, by tiredness, and they have an impact on our emotions, They awaken joy, sorrow, anger, fear. And we can say that those impressions touch our whole being, which is, in Edwige Stein's view, holistic. We have the physical dimension, the psychic dimension, and the spiritual or intellectual dimension. So senses, emotions, and our understanding, our intellect. So something comes to us from outside, these impressions, and something comes also from us, our response. And precisely how we respond reveals how free we are, because we simply observe what moves us, which dimension of us takes the lead when we make choices. If our senses dominate, we just follow instincts. If our emotions dominate, we merely react how we feel in a certain moment. If our reason, our intellect takes the lead, then we can discern, we can evaluate and choose deliberately. And Edwige Stein explains the fundamental role of values in human motivated acting. Every human action presupposes a value, and the structure of the human motivated act is following. First, we recognize this value. We recognize this value as a good to be followed. Then we must feel this value, and at the end engage the will and act according to that value. So the feeling that arises from recognizing the value is situated between recognition and action. We can say that it's a kind of keystone which binds these two moments together. Because feelings gives to the act a particular tone, particular character. It's not that the human will is working like a robot, like a machine. It's not automatic. We also must feel what we do. But the problem is that we might recognize as value something that is not a real value, because our vision of the reality is limited. And it happens when we identify with some of those dimensions of our being, but taken separately. And we don't identify with who we are, or better, in the view of Edwige Stein, who we are called to become. And we can imagine our soul as a space limited by a circle. In that circle, there is a center. And also inside this surrounded area, this space, there is a mobile point. So in this space, we have less and more distant space from the center, right? And simplifying, our senses are those which are in the subsurface, the more distance. Our emotions are less distant. And the intellect, the spiritual part, is the dimension which is the closest to the center. And we are talking about a mobile point in all this space. This is, according to Einstein, our I, our consciousness, our self in a certain sense, which permits us to identify with a place that we choose. So we can live on the surface and let our senses, our affects, our feelings to dominate. We can identify with them in such way that we would also give some rational explanation, justification to what we do following only the emotions. For example, I disobey because the superior was not right, while in reality we disobey because we are angry with our superior, for example. So it limits our sense of reality and also our self-knowledge, because the radiant of our consciousness is very short, is very limited. We identify with our sensorial or emotional part, and we take it as whole. And living on the surface ends up with following the false value of self-satisfaction. the desire of immediate gratification, something that we can call a logic of gain or logic of possession, and attention, because religious can easily fall into this trap of thinking that, oh, this problem no longer concerns me because I have already done my formation, my studies, prayer, community life, the spiritual content that we are dealing with. And it can quite unconsciously become some kind of mask, some kind of spiritual makeup, we can say, that hides this fundamental lacking in the process of our maturation. And it becomes even difficult for us to believe that I might have a problem with my affectivity, with my emotions. I might be immature. How could that be? The novice master, the general mother, impossible. While the consciousness that we might have this problem also is already a great deal. And as we gradually retreat from this surface and move toward our center, we will be able to have more and more authentic, wider vision of reality and of ourselves. Because for Edwige, the center of the soul is the space of freedom, the place from where we can discern, we can evaluate and know the authentic values. And in doing so, we change our reactions into decisions. But since the center is also the place of encounter with the supernatural, with God, our decisions can and should become responses. Because every free act is a response. And to reach the center means to set out on a journey toward our interiority, to be present first, to be present in what we do, to be present in our actions, to be conscious, to be aware of what we are doing and why we are doing so. Because sometimes we just let ourselves to be carried away by our actions, our work, our emotions, and there is no us. Our emotions, yes, but we are not there. And not everyone agrees with this distinction, but I'm reminded St. Thomas say that there is a difference between human acts, so free and conscious acts, and acts of men, which are just automatic. And Edwige defines the personal life as conscious and awakened. So, with which part do I identify mostly? Is it the sensorial part, the affective part, or the intellectual part? Where do I live in most of my time? But the question is if it is only the role of reason to lead us toward freedom, only up to a certain point, because ideas and arguments can guide us and should guide us, but they cannot transform us. While Edwige is saying our freedom should be transformed, should be set free. A person doesn't reach freedom through her own effort only, for it is only the encounter with a person that we are not merely able to decide, but to respond. And only then we begin to recognize that what first appeared impression or a circumstance, an impulse, is in fact a call. And Edwige's new way of understanding the human person after her encounter with the Catholic faith is understanding of human person in her relation to the grace. It is the grace that lets us discover the reality of gift, because the most important things in our life are always given. Our life, our vocation, people who we know. And this is an interesting analogy because it concerns freedom itself. Because for Edwige, a person is someone who can open herself in front of you, but it depends fully on her. She can say yes and let you in your life, but she can say also no. So that is why this is a gift when someone is entrusting his life to you. We cannot pretend it. And when the grace calls us, it totally respects this condition of free person. It totally respects our freedom. So the grace is the first gift, and we can make gift of ourselves to the grace by letting it in, saying yes. And this is in order to be transformed, because every real radical, and radical means reaching the root, radix. So every radical transformation takes place after an encounter. And Saint Paul is the perfect example of it, because after his encounter with Christ, this encounter puts him in a way of liberation, because every conversion essentially is a liberation. And what changes in Paul is his logic. From the logic of gain, he passes through the logic of loss to reach the logic of gift. Whatever were gains to me, I now consider loss for the sake of Christ. What is more, I consider everything a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord. This is a new type of gain where our liberation begins. Its reasoning transformed Saul. He surely reasoned a lot studying the scriptures, but this way of reasoning drove him only into a false deal against Christian, while what transformed Paul was not an idea, it was a person, an encounter. And in the case of Edith Stein, it was an encounter with the cross. Her first encounter with the cross, as she herself calls it, was the impression made on her by the serenity and peace of Anna Reina, her friend, after the death of her husband. Edith Stein later testified, "It was my first encounter with the cross and with the divine strength that it gives to those who carry it. It was the moment when my unbelief collapsed and the light of Christ shone forth. Christ in the mystery of his cross." And a similar thing happened to more recent, very recent actually, Sister Claire Crockett, that I will also show you here. She was a young Irish girl whose dream was to become an actress. And she devoted her youth to preparing to become an actress, to prepare for that career, living a wild life full of parties. And one Good Friday, she unexpectedly found herself at the liturgy of adoration of the cross with a group of religious sisters. And we can say she was forced, as she later put it, to stand in a line with the faithful and kiss the cross. A gesture which, in her eyes, in her own words, meant completely nothing to her. Sister Claire would later say that those 3 seconds in which she kissed the cross changed her entire life. And she was repeating, "He gave his life for me. Why has no one told me that before?" And after that, she gradually renounced on the way of life she was leading. She became a nun, and actually she died at the age of 33 in an earthquake in Ecuador. And from the philosophical point of view, you can say that in these 2 sisters, there was a moment of clarity. The moment in which those people reach in some way their center. Otherwise, the decision, the response would be impossible. Despite not being Christian, Edith Stein was always trying to be present in what she was doing. she was living in some way this spiritual aspect, and it helped her a lot to recognize the calling. While for Sister Claire, it might have been just a moment of moving from the surface into the depth. But that very moment was the decisive one. And we can think in our life about such moment of clarity, which is the moment of encounter. And the power of that encounter is necessary to lead us and give us strength through the way of our vocation, our liberation, our conversion. And first of all, we must remember that freedom is a necessary condition for entering into a covenant with God. Why did God not make his covenant with the Israelites when they were still in Egypt? He could do it. He had 400 years to do it, actually. Because only a free person can give a response. And the logic of laws does not mean that God will now strip us of everything we love, of everything that is dear to us. No. First of all, he does it to purify our desire, because the desire is the dynamic of human being. Plato and Aristotle say that the philosophy is born of wonder. And we can add another step and say that the holiness is born of desire. We must be set free from all the desires that are not essential, that impede our way. That's why we are asking it at the beginning, what moves us? Because only the grace can move us towards the right direction and move there or our being. And that is why we are asked to place our confidence in grace. And to do that, the grace should set us free from one thing, our sense of security. Sense of security that rests on anything that is not Christ himself. Saint Peter, Apostle, did not need any special skill to convert 3,000 people with one preaching, or to heal only with his shadow falling upon the sick, and ultimately to give his life for Christ on the cross. All he needed was to lose this self-confidence that made him say, even if everyone abandon you, I will not. And then, when he recognized who he was, he just said, Lord, you know who I am. I didn't know it before, but now I am also aware. And this was the moment when Christ could repeat, feed my sheep, because God, one who puts first the confidence in us. And losing, create within us a fundamental disposition in the exactly the confidence. The confidence in God is the lack of external dependence. Being gradually freed from our certainties, we become capable of making truly personal decisions. And freedom decisions must overcome this fear of responsibility, which is common in most people. And every decision is a risk. We prefer that someone makes the decision in our place. But the obedience to God is exactly the art of making personal decisions. To respond the calling. This is the responsibility. The ability to respond. And this notion of responding is important also when we have some role of responsibility. Or, for example, if we are the ones supposed to make decisions, are those decisions only decisions because I want this, or I try to respond to the need of community of other people, and it requires, of course, listening. A decision always means letting go of our supposed omnipotence, this illusion that we can keep every option open, and choosing one concrete path. And the most risky decisions are those that concerns the most important matters. Often, the entire lifetime. For example, our vocation. Another example of Edwige, when she heard about the war and the need for nurses, she did not hesitate. She left the university which she loved and enrolled in the Red Cross to serve wounded. When her mother objected, saying, "I am not giving my permission," Edith, who was obedient to her mother, just replied, "Then I will go without your permission." And I want you to look at another example, this of the Polish Franciscan, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, who you can also see here. I think you have already heard about him, the Franciscan who gave his life to save the life of another prisoner in Auschwitz. But he was also a very zealous missionary. And here is how the opening of the mission in Japan took place. Saint Maximilian presented his superiors, and he said, "I would like to open a new house in the mission territory in Japan. Do you have money for this purpose? No. Do you know the language? No. Do you at least know? No." And imagine, after just 1 month in Japan, they were able to print their magazine in Japanese, which they didn't know, with no money and with no benefactors. You can see that it doesn't concern reason, intellect anymore, but confidence, courage, and risk. You are able to take risks when you have nothing to lose, or when you regard as nothing whatever you might lose in giving your response to the calling. And not expecting any reward forms within us another rare disposition, the gratitude. Even for the situations which, from a human point of view, seem more like occasion to complain, to rebel, than to thanksgiving. The group of friars, with the same Saint Maximilian at their head, was arrested and deported to the concentration camp in Germany. It was another camp, not yet Auschwitz. When the friars began to be discouraged, Saint Maximilian had his own original way of consoling them. And he would say, "Let us rejoice. This is our mission. Think of how much good we can do for those souls, for those people. And this for free, gratis. Otherwise, we would never have had the chance to come here, to come in this place." So you see, it's only the proof that our fulfillment does not depend on any circumstances, but on our disposition, actually. But this is the new of comprehending the reality from the true perspective, from the divine perspective. And that the proof that freedom is the capacity to see the good, to see good everywhere. Because if we are not able to do it, it means we are not free. But let us come back for a while also to Edwige, which in her early works, she was talking about abandon to grace as the freest act of freedom, the freest act of freedom. Then later, she defined love as the freest of what exists. While at the end, in her last work, The Science of the Cross, she says that the spousal union with God is the goal for which the soul was created. And in all those statements, the logic that is followed is the logic of gift, abandon, love, spousal union, because she understands ultimately that I can give myself only to a person. I can dedicate myself to the work, to some passion, to some mission, but only from a person I can expect reciprocity. and the only adequate response to love is love. And in this case, God's love comes first, and the response is ours. And in this last point, I do not want to present any more theory. I would rather like to recall the example, the last episode of life of Saint Maximilian Kolbe, which shows us this notion of freedom very well. And I want to recall this example because saints are actually the ones who say to us, what I experience is true, and that is why this is reliable and this is convincing. So after his arrest to Auschwitz, Saint Maximilian Kolbe writes his last letter that has been preserved, and this is a letter to his mother. And he says, "My dearest mother, toward the end of May, I arrived with a transport at the camp of Auschwitz. As for me, everything is fine. Dearest mother, do not worry about me or about my health, because the good God is everywhere, and with great love, He watches over everyone and everything." Who can write "everything is fine" from a place described as hell on earth? Only one kind of person. Only a person who loves, and who is completely free from the dependence of circumstances, and stripped uniform as everyone else, living in the same barracks as everyone else, receiving a number, not a name anymore, but number, like everyone else. This man, this saint, was unlike anyone else. And the German soldiers realized it. They were telling one to another, "We have never seen someone like him here." And at the end of July 1941, the hostages from the prisoners were chosen as a reprisal for the escape of one prisoner, to condemn them to die of starvation. One of the selected prisoners began to cry and despair, begging to be spared and saying, "My family, my children." At that moment, from among those who had not been chosen, a prisoner, Saint Maximilian, stepped out of the line and approached the SS man. And the commandant, seeing him, asked, "What do you want?" "I want to go and die in his place." "Who are you?" "I am a Catholic priest." "Why do you want to do this?" And at this point, the answer of Saint Maximilian was quite simple. He just explained that he didn't have family as the one who was crying, so his life was quite not necessary anymore. But I believe that the true reason lies in the previous answer. I am a priest. In this culminating moment of his life, Saint Maximilian had a full understanding of who he was. He understood his deepest identity. He belonged to Christ, and giving his life was the natural consequence of that identity. And we can see, and in any situation, the situation of this extreme suffering, he remained free. And only a free person can be fully aware of her identity. Because this is actually the work of grace, to let you find your true identity of belonging to Christ in the unique way, in your way. And Saint Maximilian actually has already given his life a long time before, because self-giving is not a work of a moment, it's not the moment of martyrdom, of some heroic act, but this is this continued response, our yes, our fiat, at every moment. And every moment can become a testimony of who we belong to. And the last and perfect example that I want to give of this freedom is the Blessed Virgin Mary. At the moment of her Annunciation, she stands before God as a completely free person, and her disposition is one of total receptivity. She was present there. Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with you. There is a big difference between being next to someone and being with someone. I can sit next to a person on a bus, at the school desk, at the community table, and never truly be with that person. The same can happen with God. He is always with us, but we are often only next to Him. And the first conscious encounter, what we were talking about, that has the power to transform our life and set us free, actually, must become this continuous with, this presence that we discover in the depth of our person, which awakens freedom, which gives us possibility to respond. She was greatly troubled and said at what the angel said, and pondered what sort of greeting this might be. Mary does not react immediately. The angel's words penetrate deeply into her, and she reflects, how can this be, since I don't know men? She enters into dialogue, not simply decides, but she's able to give a true response. Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word. Here I am, ecco me. Again, we have this notion of presence, of self-consciousness, and Mary risks, trusts, abandons herself. Her self-gift is expressed in this passive form, let it be done to me. And what arises is her gratefulness. My soul magnifies the Lord. And that's how we have seen some of the aspects of comprehending of the freedom in Edith Stein's view. And here I think I should conclude. So I'm concluding.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. We had great ideas from you, and congratulations for a great research on Edith Stein. She is such a great philosopher indeed, one of the great philosophers in the last century. So there is kind of a logic of gain, and then comes the logic of loss. Yeah, then there is kind of encounter there, but you didn't put as a logic of itself. Can we say it's a third logic, kind of a logic in sequence?
This is actually the logic of the gospel, because logic, I put it in the terms of logic because it's something that we follow when we have some principle. Exactly. That's why I mentioned the value at the beginning. What is our value? Because if we recognize the value, well, we will logically follow it, follow the good, something that we retain good. So first, usually for us human, this is the logic of gain, the self-satisfaction. We just grasp to something that we consider that will bring us satisfaction, right? Like this rich man in the gospel. This is his logic of gain. He had a lot of things, right? But then the encounter lets you know that there is something more than what you considered gain before, and this is what Saint Paul is telling us. After the encounter of Christ, he realized that everything that he was following first, even if it seemed right to him, was just a loss. So after that, the encounter makes us, when we recognize that there is something more, we can adhere to this reality. And why is it the encounter? And it's important, it's the encounter with Christ, because you can follow this logic of gift, which is not logical from this first point of view, this human point of view, but it is understandable only when you recognize the love of God that comes to encounter you, right?
Yeah.
If you recognize it, this is also the interesting topic in Edith Stein, because she's describing some kind of competition between grace and our free will. That she says that it's, of course, it is possible that one doesn't respond to the grace. So also the damnation is possible, but at the same time, infinitely improbable, improbabile, giusto, right? Improbable, because of what? Of the power of attraction of grace, which is love. So when love attracts you, you cannot follow anymore the logic of that you were following before, and you start to follow the new logic of giving yourself. I don't know if I responded to your question.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was good. That was good. Then while I'm still also waiting for any other question, just to thank you very much for these heroes. Okay, Brother Jackson seems to have a question. Welcome, Brother Jackson.
Thank you. That you are good teaching.
Brother Jackson, we don't get you well. Maybe you can type your question as you continue to try to speak. I welcome Brother Johnson Jackson, while Brother Jackson will be typing his question. So, Brother Jackson, welcome. Johnson Jackson.
Okay, thank you for the nice presentation, sister.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have enjoyed the presentation. And though there are some who have maybe joined later, so the question I want to raise is at least to understand what the test interest or a general grasp for all participants to understand the central presentation today.
Okay. Brother Johnson Jackson is trying to ask for the central theme today for those who were late to join. So what was the probably the center of the theme today for those who came late?
Yeah, the topic says that we ask actually at each time if freedom can be considered as a calling to the self-gift, right? And we were saying that freedom took only separately. We cannot understand it very well. We understand it only when we considering it like the freedom in a relation to a person, to the person of Jesus Christ, to whom we can give our response. And then we can understand how the freedom, the human freedom, can become a calling or an invitation, we can also say, to respond in the same way to what Jesus have done for us.
Thank you. I think you heard Brother Jackson about the theme that we are trying to ask ourselves on the essence of freedom to offer ourselves as a gift. I don't know if you got it.
I got it.
Yes.
So, and also to add on, maybe can you help me out with consider how do we integrate freedom as well as self-consciousness into attaining to that order of what we have explaining on this road, that how do we now integrate this freedom and self-consciousness, because I found that in self-consciousness is when we can get to know our state of freedom. So how do we join, how do we combine, or maybe how do we understand this freedom from the grounds of self-consciousness, of self-awareness towards that understanding of other graces as well?
Okay, I think I understood but I will ask the couple to repeat this. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm from Poland and I don't deal with English every day. Maybe, but please repeat.
There's someone to help to translate in more maybe in.
I mean, you're asking how our let me ask how our self-consciousness can what input can it have to our comprehension of freedom, or
Exactly. That's the question. Yes.
Okay. Oh, very good. Because actually, it was this was the first part that we were talking about. Because sometimes we very often we don't have the full understanding. We will never have the full understanding, but we have a very limited understanding of who we are. We don't know ourselves because we often, one of the reasons, of course, because about this topic we can say really a lot, and Edwige is saying actually a lot about it. But when we limit the comprehension of ourselves to some aspect of us, for example, as she puts, when we are living only in the surface, right? We don't have this attitude of reflection. We merely react, and this reaction becomes something automatic, something that we just follow. But it is not us. It is not the real, the authentic ourselves. But knowing ourselves first requires the encounter with God, prayer, silence, because self-knowledge is the knowledge that God has about us. So the first thing is to let him in, right? Then exactly this attitude of silence, of solitude sometimes, to change gradually our reacting into decision that we make first by reason. And as we, that's what Edith Stein says, as we retreat to our interiority, we are able to see who we are really, that we are not only the composed by this automatic reactions, our emotions. There is something more, and that's interesting because even when she has not met she had not known the Catholic faith yet, she already perceived that there is something in the human being that is more than just this psychical part. Not only senses, but we often identify our reactions, what we do with the psychological part. But there is something more, our spirit. And she didn't know what it is. She got to know it when she encountered Christ, who revealed her the mystery of man better, right? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brother Jackson. You heard that, Jackson, about the necessity of encounter to self-knowledge. Now, may I get to Brother Jackson, who was not able to connect well. He typed his question there. So basically, he's trying to look at the contemporary society, how we can gain, how Edith Stein and Maximilian Kolbe's understanding of freedom can help the contemporary society. How can we benefit from these giants on freedom exactly?
As for Edith Stein, I would say that she can teach us something important, which is the contact with ourselves, the relationship with ourselves, because what is characteristic for our generation, right, is this immediacy, to react immediately, and also what helps us very much to achieve this immediate reactions is this thing, right? So we don't we don't think, we just react, we just respond, we don't reflect. So I'm not saying that the technology is not good, absolutely, but she teaches us that enter in the contact with yourself. Think for a while, just disconnect from all the external factors and stay one-to-one with yourself, and you will discover that you are, she's saying, you are, that someone is living in you, right? Because when we can, as we get into our inner life, interiority, we will discover that there is someone to encounter. So this immediacy, I would say, yeah, because it often causes a lot of problems with, actually, also within our relationships. For Saint Maximilian Kolbe, I think it's also the optimism, because just looking at his point of view, his attitude in front of all these situations of suffering, like this being taken to this concentration camp, he just says to his brother, let us rejoice. So he can take find the opportunity to do something good in every circumstance. So we are never justified that we cannot do anymore now. No, this is the situation, this is the calling that is asking you to give your response. And that's how, after this episode, I didn't tell you all the story of Saint Maximilian, but it's interesting because in that place, the first place, he just made friends with those soldiers, German soldiers. They liked these friars, they took pictures together, they were delivered very soon. So this attitude of Saint Maximilian had also a great impact to others. So we can have this great impact to other persons also with our optimism, our smile. That will help a lot.
Thank you very much for that. The first, well, you pointed our gift and sin at the same time of immediacy. We are always frantic with this and this and this. Thank you very much. But also, from you can learn the kind of contemplation from Edwige, trying to reserve silence and prayer, but also the optimism from Maximilian Kolbe.
Exactly. This is fundamental, this is fundamental.
Yeah.
If there's no optimism, there's no spiritual life, I think.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Today we are celebrating the feast of Saint Mark, and in the Gospel of Mark, this word is so often used immediately. And think if we consider Mark the first place, then we have four other Gospels. So three others. So we have Luke, Matthew, and John. So we can consider these three as inviting us to the opposite of immediacy, maybe, so that we balance that. Thank you very much. So, Brother Jackson, you wanted to say something? Johnson Jackson.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate the presentation. And then for what she explained now, I found something that I found the order of getting to know ourselves, connecting like that way of Platonic levels of education, Platonic levels of understanding. On how do we get into the epistemic level from which we call the level of knowledge, the highest level of knowledge of understanding. So it starts, or maybe if they get down, it starts in that before the grade, we need to put ourselves together. We need to put our effort in order to know ourselves better. Because coming to know how free we are, it adds to contemplate, have a time to ask ourselves, to know ourselves better, so that we can know what God has bestowed on us and how free we are, so that we can be able and useful for others. Before the grace, we need to present ourselves together through meditations, also all the ways that help us to connect with God. So it is a call for each and everyone not to wait until the grace comes on us, but we need to prepare ourselves, cultivate our knowledge, our understanding, so that at the end, if God's grace comes upon us, but we are already prepared toward that it is a way of according to the epistemic way of knowledge. That is all this freedom comes, but it needs us to cultivate ourselves to be receiving, in a state of receiving that grace. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's not a direct question, just a contribution. Yeah. So, Brother Benedict, welcome as we approach the winding part of our session today. I would like to welcome Brother Benedict.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, especially our presenter today. I knew she had something great to teach us, and one of the things to highlight that really touched me is about the logic of gain. The logic of gain to the logic of loss to the logic of gain again. So I'm very appreciative for this new knowledge, and also looking forward to have other kind of presentation, because by this we grow together and get to know the saints, not to admire them, but to imitate them. I'd like to echo the words of Sister Maria, that freedom, it is a center. When we establish the center, then we get to be free. And Bonaventure can agree with me that everything begins with freedom. Unless we are free, then we cannot actualize ourselves.
Exactly.
Another thing that touched me is about gift, that the grace is a gift, and we have to encounter this gift, which is cross, and at the same time is Jesus Christ himself. So I'm very grateful for this teaching, and I can say I'm looking forward for more conferences that will come ahead. So I'm grateful, and thank you, sister. You are very free, and thank you for making me free again. So thank you so much, Bonaventure, and all the others. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is the DJ of our faculty. If someone doesn't know, I'm telling you now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I forgot to tell you, Sister Teresa Benedict of the Cross is our sister. We belong to the same order. We belong to the same congregation. So
I highlighted it at the beginning that she's a Carmelite. So
yeah, so that's very important. So thank you for presenting my sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. So we have several heroes today. We have Edith Tanya herself, and Claire, Sister Claire, Maximilian Kolbe, and then Sister Therese, as just mentioned, and Mary, the Mother of Jesus. Thank you very much for presenting us these heroes. Anyone, maybe just for those people who join us for the first time, maybe anyone who has not spoken and wishes to say something, just an appreciation. Anyone who has not spoken, then if not, I just wish to thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. Maybe I say one thing also I have learned is that logic, the reason has the limit. If we were to know ourselves, we have there is a point of encounter which is more of the heart, the emotional part that touches us, changes our perception, that gets to reorient us to the center. Thank you very much.
You know, one thing I would say also, because you're asking me about this self-knowledge, but one thing we didn't say, but it's very important, that this is actually another person who contributes mostly to self-knowledge, if you accept it, right? Your community, your superior, spiritual director, your friends, as we become a mirror, understand ourselves and see the situation from outside, the same situation that we are living, but from outside. So do not, let us not neglect this reality of the other person that can contribute to this. Okay? Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure and honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a great work. You really prepared. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending. See you next time. Bye bye.